Welcome back, friends. We are glad you've decided to come join us again. We are back after a couple weeks of some filling in and making up for some things, and that's how life goes sometimes, right? I am excited to have you guys back with us for another episode of Kingdom Recon. If I tell you, this has been probably the most anticipated show for me in our show's history. That's not an exaggeration because we're like 8 episodes in. So it's also one we've been talking about and working on for probably about a month now, if not a little bit longer. And I think it's an important one because there's a lot of ground to cover. But before we get into all that, let me introduce my co-host, my regular crew here for the show. To the side of me here, for those who are watching, we've got Josh Wingate. You can find him on Twitter at Josh Wingate 302. Josh, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Excited to be here. I'm sorry I've been in and out here recently, but yeah, excited to be back.
Yeah. Like I said, we've all had a couple of different things between
Yeah.
Halloween and I think I caught the plague twice, and uh, a whole bunch of I had a work thing, and just lots of things have happened in the last month. So, but down
Definitely.
below us is a face that is certainly familiar, who's been filling in on not just our show, but on the Kingdom Says show. Well, he's not filling in on our show; he's one of our regulars. Our Randy Ellenberger at Chief of the North on Twitter. Randy, how are we doing today?
Fantastic. Good to have all three of us back together. Finally for an anticipated show
Yeah.
that we've literally I think we started talking about this setup at least 3 weeks ago, if not a month. So,
Mm-hmm.
but good to be back at it.
Yeah. How are your Nebraska Cornhuskers doing? Any draft eligible prospects over there?
It's gonna be a little hit and miss over there. We got some defensive guys. Offense is gonna be a little scarce.
I've not watched a Nebraska game this
All I
year.
know is that we're sitting at 5-3 right now. We're playing Maryland this week, and for the fact that one more win and we're bowl eligible in the first year of the rural endeavor has me optimistic. But yeah, the offense is struggling. Quarterback situation's not fantastic, but go Big Red. Yeah, we're still moving ahead. So that's all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are, as I alluded to, a highly anticipated episode, at least I think with the, for the three of us. And we're hoping that you'll enjoy it just as much. And of course, as always, if you do, this will be the moment where I take just a brief pause to ask you to follow, rate, subscribe, tell your friends about us, tell your barber about us or your hairstylist, call your mom, your dad, tell them you love them, tell them that there's a great new draft podcast out and that they need to listen to it. We just want your feedback. We want you to be part of the conversation and come hang out with us. These conversations and getting to watch prospects is always one of my favorite things. Is when someone goes, "Hey, have you checked this guy out yet?" And I haven't, and I get to find somebody I haven't heard about or haven't seen, and get a kind of a jump on working on them. So, um, you know, that's part of it, right? Obviously, it supports the show. That's great, but we really want to be part of conversations. So, as I said, anticipated episode. We are talking wide receivers and tight ends today. We're putting them together because just as a unit, those are kind of your pass catchers, your skill positions, on your offense. And we know that there's a lot of teams who need a lot of receivers and who need a lot of tight ends. And we are going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just kind of making a list and talking about it, we're going to go through and we're going to do a snake style draft. So we've all three of us have gone over the list of receivers who are likely to come out and tight ends who are likely to come out this upcoming season, and we're just going to pick our guys one by one. We'll talk about each pick for a little bit, and then we'll at the end we'll kind of summarize how they're going to fit together, and then we'll get into more of the nuances of how do you piece together kind of those skill positions for an offense. So. We did a very professional, very
Sophisticated, randomized.
sophisticated is the correct word way to determine
That's
who
how we roll.
Yeah, we had a wheel. We spun the wheel. Josh got the first pick, so all the pressure's on him. And we are going to do snake style. So Josh is going to be first, Randy is in the middle, and then I'm going to finish up, and then I'll have the pick at the top of the second round, and we'll just keep rotating through. So Randy gets stuck in the middle, between Josh and I putting up with both of us, which is pretty accurate for how the show usually goes. But we're excited to get started. So there are no rules other than the fact that you got to take one tight end and 3 receivers, and at the end of your draft, be ready to talk about how those 4 players fit together in an offense. Don't take a punter. We talked about that.
No.
You can't you can't take a quarterback and convert him to wide receiver. No Bill Belichick kind of strategies here. So
don't outthink the box.
Right? Can't take Tim Tebow and put him at tight end.
You cannot.
Not today.
Not until he fails 4 times at quarterback and comes out of retirement or something like that. And you got to hire Urban Meyer as a head coach, which
he's got to be play for the Mets a little bit too while he's at it.
Yeah, a fate worse than most punishments. So, all right, Josh, I'm gonna let you lead us off. I've stalled that can. You tell
do I
us,
get my little jingle that gets the? Do I get that or no?
I don't.
Or do
we don't.
No, I'm just kidding.
I
don't know if we're allowed to.
Wingate is on the clock.
Yeah. So, as a Georgia fan, there's this big guy out there, and I mean, he's there. But ultimately, what I'm going to do is take Marvin Harrison Jr. As that number 1 pick because he is just. He might be one of the best receivers to come out in a long, long time. I mean, he has everything. He can do everything. He's just unreal. What can you say about him? He's got the height. He soft hands. The one downfall to him is he might be a little ineffective in his breaks, in his route running, but it doesn't matter. He's an amazing receiver, and he's going to be an amazing receiver at the next level. So I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right, a little bit of a surprise at the top. I mean, because I know how much
for sure. Brock Bowers was coming off one of them.
So, I thought it was happening. Randy, that leaves you at number 2. Which direction are you thinking?
This should come as no surprise with Harrison Jr. gone. And he's going to be one of my preseason top 10 guys. I am taking Rome Odunze from Washington. He is my wide receiver number 2, clear cut. At 6'3", 215, he's got the size. He's got great speed. He's got good build. He's strong. He's putting up fantastic numbers up there in that Washington offense. Penix Jr. is playing out of his mind, leading the Heisman candidate. But when it comes to outside wide receivers for me, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be him playing out wide, outside too, or on the boundary. I mean, you can literally put Rome anywhere you want to on the football field. He's that versatile, and he's got that kind of skill set. He's sitting at 56 catches, 989 yards with 7 touchdowns. He's got a 17.5-yard average. And he's got an over 81-yard punt return for a touchdown too. So super versatile, great size, great speed, can do literally anything you want a wide receiver to do. Really, the only little bit of knock, last year he had some drop issues. I think he was maybe concentrating a little bit too much catching the ball with the body. I think he's rectified that a little bit this year. Not so many drops. And he's a guy I would love to see roaming Arrowhead next year. But if we're going to finish this season where we expect to, I highly doubt that Mr. Odunze will be there at the end of the first round. But he's my dude. He's my dude number 2 for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about his kind of his progression, and he took a step forward. You guys made this one easy on me because I would, if this were an actual draft, I would be literally pushing Randy off the stage to get my card in. I'm going to take Brock Bowers. I know he's hurt right now, but Brock Bowers probably would have went top 10 last year had he been draft eligible. Same thing with Marvin Harrison. one of the most complete. And I'm always a little bit nervous about taking tight ends early because it feels like sometimes those don't work out. And tight end as from the to the pro level is such a there's just so much you have to learn. It really is, I think, a position that people underrate in terms of one, how physical you have to be to play the position, but how many responsibilities you have to have, and how much weight an offense can have on a tight end, right? An all-pro tight end can make or break an offense, but I think of guys who have gone, early in the draft. Detroit took T.J. Hawkinson, several years ago, and he didn't do great in Detroit, but he's looked a lot better in Minnesota. In fact, I think Detroit's taken a couple tight ends early in the draft in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
Pettigrew, and there was another one in there, wasn't there? So, I mean, even Kyle Pitts is an example. So I'm always a little bit nervous, but Bowers is cut from a different cloth because he really is just so well-rounded in everything that he does, and has been one of the most unique players to come out at the position in a long time. And he has that physicality that you want. He can move around. He is just a nightmare for defenses to have to scheme around. Like I said, I know he's injured right now, and it doesn't seem like that's going to be anything to worry about long term. But come back, he's going to test well, and that makes it easy for me to go, okay, I'm going to grab Brock Bowers, and then not have to worry about tight end, and I can, like I said, we're doing the snake draft, so I also have the next pick.
Well,
and this is
can I just say something real quick before?
No, you cannot.
Okay. So do we think he's the best tight end to ever play college football?
Ooh.
Brock Bowers?
As a tight end?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a show first. My dog Scout is making.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, what's
always,
up, Scout?
always down for a Scout sighting.
What do you think, Scout? Do you think Brock Bowers is the best tight end to ever play in college football? I think that's a yes.
I mean, he's in the argument. I mean,
yeah, he definitely is, and I think he's about to break the touchdown record, or did he already break it? Something like that. Yeah. And how often do you see a tight end take jet sweeps?
Yeah,
he does that and takes them to the house. So he's just an all around. You can do anything with the guy, and he's just unreal. If it wasn't for Marvin Harrison being in this conversation, he definitely would have been my number one pick.
Yeah, I think Scout thinks you should have took Brock Bowers number one.
Right. Yeah.
Because I also look at the rest of this tight end class and just how rare it is to have a tight end of Brock Bowers' caliber. Yeah. And honestly, and I'll spoil it for you guys. If I had the number one pick, I would have went Brock Bowers for that reason. Yeah. Just because, again, this wide receiver class does have some depth to it, which is why I'm happy to go, okay, yeah, I'll take Bowers here, and then I'm going to grab a guy who I think could very well end up being a star player, at wide receiver on the outside. And there's a couple guys, that I'm kind of with Randy, where Rome is pretty solidly my number two guy. A couple guys that have flashes that make me kind of go, okay, maybe we can get there, kind of get in the same conversation. This one comes down to two guys for me. I'm only going to talk about the guy that I'm going to take, but I'm going to go. See, I'm even debating it now. This is tough. I'm going to go with the guy who I think just has the highest ceiling here, which is Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I'm not. Wow, Josh,
that's my number two guy.
Okay.
Yeah, love him.
Listen, I watched his Florida State game, and I think that was his worst game of the season so far. But I've seen some other flashes of him. He has just a way about, the way that he moves is very fluid and very explosive. I think there's definitely some things that this is going to be dangerous because they're not the same player at all. But in terms of his movement style, so Tyreek Hill is a guy who has this almost springy ability to him. It literally just he bounces almost when he moves. And I saw that with Malik Neighbors a little bit, where it's hard to even articulate it because it's not necessarily just that pure speed, but just like the pop that comes when he is moving, changing directions or moving side to side, or and he's got speed to burn. He's got good size. I think he could really be a wide receiver one down the road. So I'm feeling pretty good with those that pairing right there. And I am going to let Randy get back to his second pick.
Yeah, no, Neighbors is a great pick. I mean, he's definitely in that conversation of wide receiver 2 with nearly everybody you talk to about. I mean, and currently, he leads the nation in receiving yards, so he's doing a heck of a good job down there. We talked a little bit just pre-recording about the other LSU wide receiver that I also really like, which is actually going to be my pick right now with Brian Thomas. I think he just epitomizes to me right now just a vertical red zone monster. At 6'4", 210, 215 pounds, whatever he is right now. He's sitting at 11 touchdowns on the season with a 17-yard average as well. So a big, tall, rangy guy who can go up and get those jump balls when you need them. Got a heck of a wingspan, good hands. So, so back to back Bayou Bengals down there. So,
all right. So we are, we did talk about him before the show, and he's a guy who's really had I think a pretty surprisingly good season, and has definitely helped himself a lot this year. And like you said, the size and the red zone production, NFL teams are definitely going to be keeping a close eye on him, and he's a guy that I want to get more of a look at. But that's a good grab there. So, all right, Josh. Now that we've robbed the board of all the guys that you like,
yeah, right. Especially you. You took all my guys.
Sorry, I'm not that sorry.
Malik Neighbors was definitely one of my guys.
Sorry,
I think he play inside and outside. He's amazing. But so I have that conundrum of I came into this because we talked about how we want to build our roster and things like that. And I came in and I want to have players that can play inside and out, because I feel like if you have that, you can do a lot more with your offense. And I came in, drafted a guy that's going to be predominantly outside. He's going to be your main X. And now I might be going to another guy that can do the same thing. He's just a big body dude that can just dominate you, out physical you. And that's Keon Coleman. He's a big dude. He has good hands. He can get the ball. I'm just a huge fan. I talked about this before before we went live. I just like thick receivers. I think the body type matters. And he is that, obviously, at 6'4", 216. He's got good size. But I just think he runs good routes. He's got that prototypical size. He's got good acceleration. I really enjoy him. And he's a threat after the catch too. I remember watching on one of the plays, he just took a quick slant, broke a tackle, juked another guy, and then took it to the house. So he's got that. He could be, if Marvin Harrison went down, he could be that X guy that takes over and just is your number one receiver going into it. So
we're thinking very similarly.
Yeah, it was a virtual coin toss in my head versus Thomas or Coleman. So,
well, and that's what I was between.
They're both very similar players. But Coleman's a dude too. He's there.
I was between Coleman and Neighbors at the top of the round.
I mean, we can make a trade if you want. I would prefer Neighbors over Coleman.
No. I'm pretty happy with my pairing, but. So we are back, Josh. You're still back on the clock here.
You back up. back to back.
That's true.
So
Ooh,
right
I
now,
forgot about that.
you have secured Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison Jr., which I think is a pretty good pairing for, if you're trying those two out on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, you're probably in a pretty good mood. So what are you?
I need that inside guy now, or I need that tight end. And I feel like I could go back to Ohio State and get my inside guy if I wanted to. Or I can go and get this receiver that could play outside as well, play inside, who I'm referring to as Jacob Cowing. And I could probably say his name better than the other one.
Can't draft him if you can't say his name.
I know, right? But I think I'm going to go with the Ohio State guy. I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka. I think.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you would pass on him again. I was like, all right, yeah, just let him fall to the.
Yeah, no.
I'll take him.
And I think he can play. He's predominantly a inside guy, but I think he can play outside as well if he's needed to. So I do like that flexibility in him. He's got speed. He's super fluid. He runs really nice routes. Has good hands. I mean, we probably all know that Ohio State has just really good receivers, top to bottom, and he's just one of them. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with where my receiving room has gone. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, that's a big pick for you there, just because I think Ibuka gets slept on a little bit because he's been banged up this year.
Yeah,
he is he just does all the things that you want a receiver to do, and especially when you have a guy like Marvin Harrison on the field, like he gets all the attention, and Ibuka just feasts on those open spots and all the mismatches that come with that. So you're talking about a guy who can play inside and eat up the middle of the field. Ibuka is one of my favorite guys for that. And again, kind of quiet right now because he's been a little banged up, but yeah, I mean that's a great pick. That's a great trio to start off. So, Randy, we are back to you, my friend. Right back in the middle of it. You've got two big guys, so you've got.
I got two big guys, and the draft has fallen to me for my guys. I'm going back to one of my preseason top 10 lists for my slot receiver, and I'm taking the Yak King out of Western Kentucky, Malachi Coral.
Yeah.
I've been super high on this dude all season long. Anybody that follows me on Twitter has seen plenty of updates on Mr. Corley and what he's been up to. He has missed a couple of games this year with injury, a couple of hamstring tweaks, but when it comes to ruling the middle of the football field and running things from the slot, there are very few people who can do it on the level that Malachi does. He's 5'11", he's 210 pounds. So he's a well-built, good-sized slot wide receiver. He's got great speed. He's got great hands, and literally what the man can do with the football in his hands after the catch is nearly unrivaled in college football. So, he's sitting at 53 catches for 660 yards. He got 8 touchdowns on the season. He's just a dude. I mean, granted, it's Western Kentucky. He's not playing the top level Power 5 guys, but I think when you have a skill set like he has in the game that he has, I think putting him in the slot is that's where he belongs. That's his home. He can do, he's football in his hands. He's fun to watch. He's one of my dudes.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. Like I've not just from following you on Twitter, but just from after I think we had our conversation about our preseason top 10s, I was like, I got to look at this guy and holy cow. and we talked, I don't remember I think Randy, we probably talked maybe off the show about, Kansas City has taken some of those smaller guys. It's always frustrating to see, in Kansas City, like those guys get drafted and they just kind of fizzle a little bit. And
right.
Corley's got some juice to him that I think is going to make him really productive. Yeah. Even though he's a quote smaller guy, he's built really well, and he moves like a running back with the ball in his hand. So
he's built for the slot. That's his home.
Yeah. And that brings it back to me for what should be my final 2 picks, if I'm doing my math right. And I've got just a lot of different options to go with here, a lot of thoughts, and I'm piecing them together as I go. There's, do I go? All right. Here's the deal. I've got Neighbors. I've got Bowers. So I think Neighbors is a guy, again, you can play him all over. Bowers is obviously going to play middle of the field. I need some more size, so I'm going to go with a guy who makes me a little bit nervous because he's a one-year wonder, and we've talked about him before. But gosh, I have enjoyed watching him play. If he can continue his current trajectory, I think we'll be in good shape. It is admittedly a gamble, and I could be wrong. There's a part of me that is more hesitant about this player than I think some of the other guys that are still on the board. But I'm going, okay, I want some more size. I want some more physicality. I'm going with Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina, who has really, when I say a one-year wonder, I mean, had
Literally.
like 60 yards in his career before this year, and then has just really emerged as the dude over there, listed at 6'3", 227, and he plays with every bit of that. So one of the things that I'm trying, I think it was maybe Dane Brugler from The Athletic talked about, or no, I'm sorry, it was the guys over at the NFL Draft Stock Exchange. They talked about how the coaches at South Carolina were raving about Leggett and how this offseason, he just took things so much more seriously, and they were talking about how they'd never seen a player make a jump like the one he's made, and I buy into that. I hope that that's something that you obviously want him to keep doing in terms of motivation, but the unique blend of size and speed. The next guy that I'm going to take to finish off my list is a guy that I'm taking because I just want a chance to talk about him, but also I've loved what I've seen out of him in the short time he's actually been able to play this year. So, and this is a guy I alluded to before the show. So we're going to find out right now in real time if I'm stealing another one of Josh's guys or not.
Well, you're not, because I got a tight end coming up.
Oh, that's right. I'm going with Devontae Walker, North Carolina. So he's a transfer from Kent State. It was a weird start to the season for him because the NCAA said, hey, he's not eligible. And he had to fight. The university got behind him. There were lawyers involved, and they just ruled, I think, in mid-October that he could play. So he has played in 4 games so far this year. And he's become a favorite target of Drake May pretty quickly. So in 4 games, he's got just under 400 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns. He's averaging 98 yards a game.
Blew up against Miami.
Yeah, I loved him coming. I know he just came off a game where he had a pretty nasty fumble that kind of closed out a game for them, and that wasn't great. But I think that he's going to have a really strong year, obviously. So he's a transfer. He's a junior with Drake May going pro more than likely. I think he'll probably be a 1-year guy at UNC. Listed at 6'2 and a half, 6'3-ish. 200 pounds. There's something about him and about the way I talked about Neighbors and the way he moves. I see something similar with Tez Walker, who, I enjoy. It's just fun to watch for me. Even at Kent State, just seeing clips of him here and there. And I'll just be. I'm going to pull the curtain way back here. Here's how I found out about Tez Walker. So, I play video games from time to time. I was playing the NCAA, college revamped, the mod that they did, and took over Kent State. And I was like, who's this? There's the only good player on Kent State. And I was like, who is this kid in real life? Googled him, started watching him. So maybe I'm literally just drafting my Madden dream here. But he showed up, in North Carolina, and I have enjoyed watching him play. I look forward to see how he finishes this season. So that's what I'm going with. Just taking some more size, some more speed. And that's it. That's it for me.
Since you're taking your NCAA guy, can I take my creative player that I had back in like 2009?
No, this is a real player. This is
because that guy was bad.
All right, Randy, you're back up.
Yeah, so I'm up with my tight end pick, and I'm struggling. I'm flip flopping in my head here, back and forth between two guys. But I think
you can say their names because I got to take someone that you've haven't taken. So
yeah, you're in the power position,
right? Yeah, I mean I'm struggling a little bit, but I think I'm gonna have to go back, and I'm gonna go with this kid that's coming out of a tight end factory for the most part. So I'm gonna go with the kid from Iowa, Luke Lachey. So Iowa's offense is struggling mightily this year, and for anyone who watches college football knows that Iowa's offensive coordinator is the laughing stock of college football right now. But what Iowa does is produce tight ends. I mean, you got Kittle, you got Hawkinson, you had Noah Fant before them, you got Laporta. I mean, they know what they're doing when it comes to bringing in guys to play tight end, develop them into guys that are willing and fully capable blockers and dudes that can catch the football and make something happen with their hands, with the ball in their hands. So, Lachey, he's sitting at 6'6", 250. He's got a whopping 10 catches for 150 some odd yards, no touchdowns on the season. But that is just, I think that's a product of the abysmal offense and quarterback play at Iowa. But that does not take away from the fact that I think this kid he's the next big tight end coming out of Iowa. His size, his skill set, his athletic ability hasn't quite been showcased this year because of the offensive problems that they have, but put him in an NFL system. And I think you're going to watch him flourish. So that's my team. That's my guys.
Yeah. So I unfortunately didn't have film on him, so he wasn't going to be my pick regardless. So I'm glad you were able to speak to him because I mean, immediately when you go to a list of tight ends and you see an Iowa guy, you're like, oh, I want to see that guy. Because while they tell you, and we've had these conversations amongst ourselves, not to scout the helmet, but you can tend to go to the side of, well, I mean, if they're putting out prospects, let me go check them out a little more because they put out good players. It's like Washington and cornerbacks. You know that if there's a Washington guy there, you're like, okay, well, they're probably good, so let me go check them out. They're kind of like that first person you go to watch when you go to that group so you can see someone good. But my guy is, I don't know where anyone else has him ranked. I watched guys like Jatavian Sanders. While a lot of people have him at number 2, I didn't really care for him too much. I mean, he's a good receiver, but can't block. And this goes to what we talked about early on. How do we view our tight ends? I want someone that can block because in Miami recently, they had a really good receiving tight end. He just couldn't block. So whenever he was on the field, you knew he was not going to be in blocking. He was just going to be receiving. So I want someone that can block. He can stay in if you need him to, someone like that. So I'm going to go with a big body guy, Brevin Spanford. I think he has a lot of upside. I believe he's not going to be that deep threat that a lot of people want out of their tight end now, but I don't need that in my group. I need someone that can stay over the middle, someone that can stay in and block, and just be that safety valve for the quarterback. So I think that's what Brevin Spanford can do. So that's what
he reminds me of the big old tight end from Georgia just a couple years ago.
Yeah, Darnell Washington.
He's about 2 cheeseburgers away from playing tackle.
Darnell Washington was my favorite Georgia Bulldog over the last 4 or 5 years.
Which is a lot. There's some good kids.
I think Brevin was probably slated or expected to have a better year than he's having this year. And I think some of that has to do with Minnesota's offense not being fantastic and the quarterback play being a little subpar. But the dude's capable. He's huge. He's 6'7", 270 pounds. Like he's literally a happy meal away from playing tackle. So
he's got athletic ability. He's got speed to him. He's not that deep threat. And I don't know. My offense doesn't need that, and he's going to be and a lot of people are going to sleep on him because he isn't that deep threat. But he's going to be a really good safety valve for someone, and that's all you need sometimes in a tight end.
Well, and I mean, yeah, sure. That's 6'7", and like you said, almost 270.
Yeah.
He's also a guy that makes you think of like Donald Parham from the Chargers, right? Once you get red zone, he's gonna be a guy that you can look at and take a good, a couple shots his way, and then you can play him every down once you're past that 20-yard line. Like, he's a big target, but he's also going to be that valuable guy that you don't have to switch him out because he can block. And I think that's like you said, that's an underrated part of a tight end's game, especially and that's why, again, it's hard to adjust to the pros because you're asking these tight ends to do a lot. And so, with the exception of a unicorn like Brock Bowers, it's not a lot of guys who, build their whole reputation on being able to do it all, especially at the college level.
It's a tough position to play. I coached tight ends for a few years in college, and those guys really do split time between working with the old linemen and then working with wide receivers. Like, you bounce back and forth. You have to know all the pass protections. You have to know all the assignments. Like, you literally have to have that mindset and be able to switch it on and off of, I got to get down and dirty and I'm going to block this dude in the trenches versus, okay, now I'm going to go out, I'm going to run a route and I got to remember how to set this guy up and still look like an athlete while I'm doing it. So,
I mean, I feel like it's the most athletic position in all of football. Other than being like the big left tackle, that's like, that's obviously athletic. It's the ability of doing everything.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it is a very hard position to play, especially the more intricate your offense is and kind of how you decide to attach him, split them out. I mean, where you can put these guys all over the field. So, that's what makes Bowers kind of that unicorn prospect where you can literally line him up all over the field. So. It's a fun position to coach, though. I had fun with those dudes, man.
Is it bad that if you gave me a fully healthy Darnell Washington, I would take him over Brock Bowers?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he was underutilized at college.
I would not. I think Bowers is just too versatile. I think he's too dynamic.
I think Darnell Washington was underutilized because of how good he could block at Georgia.
And because he had Brock Bowers. Yeah,
and we had Brock Bowers. He's a receiving threat that like he can go deep, and like where I was saying Brevin couldn't. I think Darnell Washington, I haven't paid attention to him, and I know he has a lot of injury concerns at the next level. I think he could easily be a left tackle in the NFL. And I think he could easily be a receiving threat at tight end.
Well, there's your hot take of the week. Darnell Washington, superstar in the making. Now I'm interested to see how his play. I always pick him up in Madden. Now we're talking about video games again, but
he is honestly a blocking. Like, he could easily come into the league and be the best blocking tight end.
Yeah,
that's how good of a blocker he is.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully we get to see him healthy and see him, fulfilling that potential. So let's run over our teams real quick with a bus. No, I'm just kidding. Let's just run over them, and then I'm going to read them off to you guys, and then I just want you guys to talk kind of about how those pieces fit together. I know we talked about it as we were kind of drafting, and we were kind of intentional about not getting into that too much, just because we wanted it to happen organically. But we're going to get into the part of the conversation about how not just how we do it, but how NFL teams try to piece together these offenses and kind of the different roles and smaller positions. Obviously, every team kind of handles things differently. Some teams want the receivers to be very more versatile and be able to play every spot. Some teams have very specific roles. More of a traditional. You hear the term like an X receiver, a possession receiver a lot. A slot receiver. Those are pretty, I think, traditional roles that we understand. But I also think that there's a lot of teams that move to more, being more multiple in their receiving groups. So let's start with Josh, and I'm just going to read off your list. Just kind of tell me how you would envision using these guys if you were, game planning on a Sunday. So Marvin Harrison Jr. was your first pick. You grabbed Keon Coleman with your second pick, and and then like that pairing alone is beautiful. You grabbed Emeka Buka from Ohio State, so keeping Marvin and Buka together, which is I didn't even realize we did that, but it's a good some good camaraderie there. And then we just finished talking about Brevin Spanford, your tight end. So how do you think that how do you feel about that group, and then how do you think that they kind of play out on the field?
Yeah, I feel great about it. I mean, it's hard not to when you have Marvin Harrison in the room. But I feel like I have two X's in Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison. Both guys are going to play on the outside. And then Emeka is going to be that Z who is going to move around, be that guy that can play in the slot, but also have that ability to play X as well. Because I also believe while Marvin Harrison is going to be your outside guy, he can move around as well. He can be an inside guy. So if you want to get creative in this offense, you can between the two. And then I just see Brevin as that inline tight end.
All right.
Oh, hold on. Nope. I think we lost. He's still talking. Does he know that he's muted?
No, I think.
Nope. He's still talking. Wait for it. Nope. He's taking a drink. Let's see. Oh, I think he realized it. Yep. Here we go. All right. This is live audio of Josh trying to figure out. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah.
Can I unmute you? He doesn't know what's happening. Hold on. Can't unmute. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there we are.
We're back. Because
you were talking. The last thing we heard you say was you were going to play Brevin Spanford in line. Which
so I'll play him in line, but it's the NFL, so you can move them around. Tight end, he can play on the outside if I need him to. Put him in the slot as well. I don't know what you're going to get from him too much in the slot, but like I said, NFL, you can move your tight ends around now.
Yeah, and I think even just having a guy that big out there, it's going to be a pretty distraction.
Especially red zone, having Marvin Harrison, Keon Coleman, and Brevin Spanford out there.
The shortest guy on your team is 6'1". So
it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, Josh is all about the size over here. So
I'm normally not. That's the thing. Like this team is just completely not what I'm used to.
Yeah. All right, Randy. Let's run through your list. Actually, I say that about Josh's list, but your team is a bunch of monsters over here. So, Randy, you went with Rome Odunze as your first pick. You grabbed LSU's Brian Thomas as your second pick, and then you went with another one of your preseason favorites with Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, and went back to that tight end factory in Iowa and grabbed Luke Lachey. So tell me about your guys, how you kind of see those puzzle pieces fitting together.
Right. Yeah. Super happy with my group. I got my dude in Rome who, like I mentioned, is one of those dudes where you can literally line up all over the field. And his skill set just allows him to do so many fun things. Like he moves so well. He's got great speed. He's got great size. He can go across the middle. He can take it to the house after he catches it too. So he's got great shake. We've seen that, once he gets the ball in his hands and with that big punt return of his. But one of those guys that literally, I mean, you can line him up line him up at X, Z. You can put him in the slot. He could start in the backfield and take off somewhere. Brian Thomas was a little bit maybe of a wild card. I was really thinking Coleman there for a while, but when I think about Brian Thomas, I think of that traditional dude that you line up wide. He's got the long stride. He's got the vertical threat. He's got the ability to go up and get those 50-50 balls that you essentially want to make about an 80-20 or 90-10 type guy. He's got a huge wingspan. He's got a great vertical. He's got big hands. He is a red zone monster. So, he's sitting at 11 touchdowns on the season already. So LSU knows that when it's time to get near the end zone, that's a guy that they look for. And I think, in Kansas City, that's something that I think we're truly missing. Like, we try to use MVS in that role, but he's just not dependable enough. Like, his hands just aren't. His hands are not what we want. I don't think that's an issue with Thomas. And then we go to my slot monster in Malachi Corley. Kansas City typically, we love this type of guy. We have three of those kind of guys on the roster with Hardman and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. But there's something deficient with all three of those guys. And I don't see that deficiency in any way with Corley. I think his game is just that much more complete. You basically wrap those three guys in Kansas City, wrap them up, and you think you have a Malachi Corley type player. I think he's just that much more dependable, dynamic, and capable of doing the job that we would like to see our slot wide receiver do. So, and then we have a couple really good tight ends in Kansas City already. We got the GOAT in Kelsey, who's not going to play forever, but we have Travis Kelsey 2.0 and Noah Gray. Which I've always been, pretty high on. He's got a fantastic skill set, very similar to Travis's, but not maybe quite as dynamic or savvy when it comes to some of those veteran moves. But I think Lachey at his size and where he comes from and how they teach players how to play tight end in Iowa, I think he does a combination of, I think he can do a combination of what Kelsey and Gray and Blake Bell all do. Bell's more that tough inline blocking type guy, which I think Luke is very capable of doing, but I think he's also very skilled when he's got the ball in his hands and when he's running routes as well. So I'm a big fan of my team. I had fun doing it. I got some of my dudes. I'm pretty happy about that.
I feel like anybody would be pretty happy to drop, any of these four guys into their roster just because,
right.
There's only three of us and we're not dividing up all this talent between 32 teams. That makes it pretty easy.
Right.
So just to recap my team, obviously I went with Brock Bowers as my first pick. You guys made that one easy for me. Ran that one in. Like Josh said, how many tight ends are taking end arounds to the end zone, and we're just gonna do whatever we can and we want with Bowers on the team. So that really set me up. One of the things that I tried to focus on the rest of the draft was kind of that flexibility, knowing that honestly, if I wanted to, I thought about messing with you guys and taking another tight end and just saying, no, Brock Bowers is my slot receiver. But I felt like that would be, after I enforced the rules at the beginning. But, in my mind, I went, I've already got, I've got a guy that can be the slot receiver. He can literally do it all as a receiver and has so much value as a blocker too. I don't want to understate that part of his game because I think that we get caught up with these tight end prospects and he's a good receiver and we hope he develops as a blocker. Brock Bowers is, you don't have to, no assembly required. You take him out of the box, you put him on the field and you're going to be good to go. I went with a guy who, I think is just a plus athlete and still has a lot of room to grow and could be a superstar at the next level, and Malik Neighbors. So I really made Josh miserable with my first two picks. And then I was thinking about this, Randy, as you were talking. I went with Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina, and I can kind of see some similarities between him and Brian Thomas a little bit, just in terms of both big body guys. Kind of limited production until this year. I need to go back and watch Brian Thomas. I might even just watch them both back to back just to kind of get a feel. But Leggett was the one that I kind of felt like maybe if there was one player that I rolled the dice on, and also kind of pigeonholed myself into, he is that traditional outside, like you said, kind of that X receiver, the big body guy who's going to play out there. Look for him in the red zone. Look for him on those quick slants, those jump balls. So he's maybe the guy that I went. He's going to kind of play that. He's going to have his one specific role in the offense, and we're going to feel good about it. And then, of course, I went with the one that I think when I said it, you guys were both like, wait a minute, hold on. Mr. NCAA in my heart, Devontae Walker out of North Carolina. And like I said, he literally just started his season. I know he came off a fumble the other day, but he has looked explosive in a short amount of time. Obviously, he's playing with a great quarterback in Drake May, but I think that he is going to elevate that team a little bit, provide them with a really nice spark. I love just watching him play, the way that he plays. Probably a guy who is going to not be a first rounder, maybe not even a day 2 guy, but I think someone's going to get good value on a guy who I think can grow. And so I grabbed him just to say, hey, I'm pretty comfortable with the other 3 guys on my list. And if I'm going for a guy, that can offer me some value, down the line, trust me when I say there are some other names that I went, yeah, I'm probably passing on a guy who is more, other people would go, oh yeah, that's more talented, but I wanted to make sure I got a chance to bring Tez Walker up, and not just mention him in the Spark notes. So staying loyal to my video game, inspiration. Before we get out of here, I mentioned, I didn't want to just leave Tez Walker as the honorable mention list. Who are some other guys that belong in the conversation? Some other guys that you guys like that maybe we didn't get a grab because they didn't fit with what we were doing, or I know I've got a couple guys that pop off the top of my head, but I want to get you guys' intake and just see what you think. If there's anybody else that you feel like we need to mention here in the wide receivers or tight end group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this dude pre-show just for a second, because a couple of us weren't quite real sure where or how we see him or where we see him fitting. That's Troy Franklin in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'3", he's about 185 pounds, so he's a little bit more on the slight side. I think he's got a very similar body build to like a Justin Jefferson type guy. But he's uber productive up there in Oregon. Him and Bo Nix are balling out, and he's having a hell of a year. It's just one of those things where you sit there and you watch him and you're like, he's putting up numbers, but there's just something sitting in the back of your head that you're not real sure about if it's going to translate next, or if he's going to be able to stay healthy. Is he going to be able to take the hits? I had those exact same thoughts about Jordan Addison coming out last year. Slider guy, super productive at USC, but he's one of those guys who's proven me wrong. I figured he'd be a good player eventually down the road, but I didn't figure he'd be having the season he's having this year in Minnesota so far. But just kind of one of those guys where, he kind of looks the part, but there's just something in the back of your mind that's not quite vibing with what you're kind of looking for. So, but, maybe, hopefully he proves me wrong. Hopefully he has a great career. And then there's two other smaller slot guys that I've been having a lot of fun watching this year. One of these guys is on the preseason all name list, in Smoke Harris out of Louisiana Tech. He's having a great year running things from the slot. He's got over 60 catches and almost 800 yards on the season. He's having a great season. And another guy who's coming from another smaller school, which probably a lot of guys haven't really heard a lot about, is Colin Lacey from South Alabama. 5'10", 190. He's got over 60 catches and 1,000 yards on the season already, with 5 or 6 touchdowns or something on the season. So again, a lot like, Malachi Corley, is coming from a smaller school, not playing the top dogs, but he's putting it to the dudes that he's lining up against. So a couple of smaller slot guys that I wanted to give a little shout out to that have been a lot of fun to watch so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when you trying to think of the guy that you just brought up, he slipped my mind. The guy from Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin. When you said that he was 6'3", that blew my mind, because he does not play 6'3".
Right.
So I thought he was like a 5'11" guy. So yeah, but there is something to him that you do like, but it might be that he just plays smaller than what he truly is. So that could be it. My guy is going to be, and I mentioned him while I was in between my two slot guys, Jacob Cowing. I mentioned again, I'm going to say it again. I like my receivers thick because I believe that, especially when you're playing the slot, I feel like when you're going over the middle, it just helps you more. And I feel like the thicker your body is, the easier it is to break tackles, especially on nickel corners and slot corners at that. And then my other guy, and I thought you were going to take him, Tom. It is, and I have to say his name. I don't want to say it incorrectly. Adane Mitchell. He was a Georgia guy, and I could never say his name from there. He transferred out, and he was, as a freshman, he was really good at Georgia. I thought there was going to be, if he continued with Georgia, I thought I was going to see some big things coming from him. He's a really good straight line guy. He's, I believe, 6'3", good outside guy. I don't know how he does since his freshman year. I haven't really watched him by just going off of his freshman and I believe his sophomore year. But he struggled coming back to the ball, but his straight line is really good. He reminded me a lot of like a Devontae Parker. So
yeah, I'm struggling with him right now just because I'm having I really want to like him, and like you said, that deep threat and that's the size.
yeah.
Right now I need to like go through a cleansing of smaller receivers right now. I have some bitterness in my heart because I'm so frustrated with MVS. Guys who, like you said, the lankier guys who I just feel like you said, you want them thick. Like I want them to be able to have that play strength to really, downfield, there's a lot of hand fighting. There's a lot of contact that a lot of times we don't even see. And, they may throw a flag on it and it gets replayed, but 95% of the time corners are grabbing you and moving you, and you got to have the strength to do that. So, I think Mitchell, I think he AD, somebody maybe, I don't know if he actually goes by AD or somebody just started.
I think that's what he was, AD Mitchell, when he was in Georgia.
I love the tools there, and just want to make sure he's got the play strength that I don't always see. There's a handful of guys. I'm just going to throw them on there just so if you're listening, because I know we're almost at the hour mark, but just a couple of the guys to keep eyes on. I think probably one of the guys that we didn't talk about was Mitchell's teammate, Xavier Worthy. I struggle with him because he is so small. I think he's listed at 164, and I don't see I know Hollywood Brown was probably the last guy. I think Addison was small too, but unless you have an elite trait, and I know Worthy is fast, we'll see how he tests. It's hard for me to look at that and go, yeah, I really want to gamble on that.
I have notes right here, and both Xaviers I put next to meh.
Meh. Well, hold on. How do you feel about Xavier Weaver?
I haven't watched him, but Worthy and what is it, Leggett? I have just both of them meh. They didn't impress me too much from what I watched.
Yeah. So, Xavier Weaver was another guy who's had a pretty good year for Colorado. Has been kind of their reliable outlet there. I think he's got a future as a pro. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss is a guy that I liked more than I thought I would, just on the initial walkthrough. And then one other Colorado kid, not Colorado, but Colorado State, Torrey Horton. Just a guy who's going to go on day 3, and a couple years from now, he's going to be sitting there, just putting up a 800, 900,000 yard season, just really very well rounded, and a good athlete. And just you go back and watch I think it was the Colorado State Colorado game, and Torrey Horton was sometimes just keeping him in that game. So this is a pretty deep receiving class. There's going to be a lot to unpack as the season kind of wraps up, the college season, and then obviously we're getting into the the draft cycle, and of course we'll have to talk on an upcoming episode. I know they recently made the announcement that underclassmen will be eligible for some of the All-Star games, and that's going to have some ripple effects. I'm hoping that means that we'll get more All-Star games, but definitely something we'll discuss more as information kind of comes out. But gentlemen, it has been a pleasure as always. My friends who are listening, again, leave us a comment, give us the feedback. Make sure you're following us. We are on Twitter at Kingdom Recon, and all of our handles are right at the top of the show. But just to remind you, my name is Tom. I'm Arrowhead Tom. On Twitter, Josh Wingate over at Josh Wingate 302, and Randy Ellenberger at Chief of the North, not Chief in the North. Don't get us mixed up. We don't want a copyright issue over here. Give us all a follow. Tweet us your questions. Let us know what you think of our groups. Let Josh know that he shouldn't have passed on Brock Bowers #1. Make him live with that regret.
That's a Georgia fan.
You could have had Bowers and Neighbors. You could have been living the dream, man.
So, I wouldn't have had Neighbors. That's the thing. You would have taken him anyway.
I would have taken him. No, I probably would have. Anyways, we're about to do the whole draft over. It's just like in Madden. You just hit restart.
Yeah.
So, thanks for tuning in with us, guys. We are so thankful for all of you, and we will see you again very soon.